Thank you so very much for joining us today. This is Enterprise Weekend, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. We'll be starting off with our newspaper headlines, and right after that will be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to be part of what we do. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We have with us joining us via Zoom, Emeka Madunagu, journalist, public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, Emeka, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning. Hello, viewer.
Thank you so very much for the time. So let's start off today with the Saturday Punch newspaper. And without wasting so much time, let's go straight to our talking point for today. PDP crisis deepens as Supreme Court reinstates Anyanwu as a secretary, and that you would find on page 4 of the Punch newspaper. Emeka, did you expect that coming from the Supreme Court? That's number one. Number two is, do you really think that this is not another mole in PDP? Because let's not forget that Anyanwu is Wike's best ally. So do you think this is further debasing the PDP from the inside?
No, first of all, let me answer your question from the last one.
All right.
First of all, yes, it's true. Senator Anyanwu, aka Sam Dadi, has been a mole, an agent for the destabilization of the People's Democratic Party. Yes, your first question, that report was inaccurate.
Really?
The Supreme Court did not reinstate him. What happened was that the Supreme Court gave a landmark ruling that courts have no business dictating to parties what to do concerning their internal affairs. You know, who is the executive, who is the chairman of the party, or secretary, or a gate man of the party. You know, so what the Supreme Court did was that it nullified the judgments of the Federal High Court that declared Anyanwu as the national secretary, and nullified the judgment of the appeal court that declared Ude Okoye as the national secretary, and said that the matter had been handed over to the People's Democratic Party to decide. There is an internal affair of the People's Democratic Party. There has no business, that courts have no business, interfering in the internal affairs of political parties. And so, to that extent, the People's Democratic Party now issued a statement in response to say that its organs had actually declared Ude Okoye as the authentic national secretary of the party.
So is that what I remember? Now? Is that the current standing? Is that what stands right now as we speak?
Yes. It reaffirmed the decisions of its organs. It reaffirmed the decisions of its organs. The organ said yes, that prior to the Supreme Court ruling, that had taken a decision, prior to the Supreme Court ruling, that it had affirmed Ude Okoye as the national secretary. And then pursuant to the judgment of the Supreme Court, it was reaffirming the declaration of Ude Okoye as the national secretary as a consequence of the exercise of his powers. The exercise of his powers derived from the decisions of the organs of the party. So Ude Okoye has been affirmed as the national secretary. It's not Anyanwu. Forget all those stories. These things are just manipulations.
So why would the legacy media house like The Punch not, give Nigerians this up-to-date analysis on factual matters that are very sensitive like this?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, but maybe if you look at other papers, you could see that the initial report yesterday had changed by this morning.
Oh, okay.
Because it appears papers consulted lawyers. In matters like this, it's better to get a legal expert, to look at the judgment, and look at it. So we expect the certified true copy, the CTC of the judgment in the next few days, so that everybody will see it clearly stated that parties have no business interfering in the internal matters of the internal affairs of political, sorry, courts have no business interfering in the internal affairs of parties, political parties. So as it stands, because let me now add something to it. Anyanwu would have been expelled this week from the PDP, because the National Disciplinary Committee, or the PDP, headed by Nigeria's former Foreign Affairs Minister, Chief Tommy Kimi, had recommended his expulsion from the party for anti-party activities. Mm-hmm. But he now went to a high court of the Federal Capital Territory, and got an injunction stopping his expulsion. Now, the High Court has fixed April 7, for the main suit. But of course, pursuant to the Supreme Court's decision, definitely the High Court will throw out his case. Yeah. Because the Supreme Court has now declared that courts should not interfere in the internal affairs of political parties. So Anyanwu is as good as gone from the PDP. Wow,
that is so interesting. I just sincerely hope that our judiciary will keep up the good work, rather than creating problems here and there, which of course affects our common democracy. But let's take a look at other issues, but this is more like a human angle story, and it is on matrimonial battle, how UK-based Nigerian women exploit law to chase out their husbands. Now, if you have the opportunity of going through the story, it clearly, lucidly explained how a man who went through so much to take his wife to the UK, the wife actually studied nursing, and he took the wife to the UK, hoping that he would be a dependent, not knowing that the wife he married, would chase him out of town. And he is going around now media houses just to say what he has experienced. Emeka, tell us, what do you think is the problem? Is this more like a human, individualistic character, or is it a systemic problem that we have, especially with our women doing this to their loved ones?
No, excuse me, there are so many women, so many Nigerian women who have migrated to different countries with their husbands and children, and their marriages didn't break up. But a little leavens the lump, and that is what we are saying. Base characters who have no proper family upbringing, who have no regard for values, who have no regard for for matrimonial vows, are the ones causing all these problems, giving us a bad image. It was so bad that an officer of the Metropolitan Police in the UK, who I think is of Southwest Nigerian origin, he actually addressed the media, sometime last year, and he was speaking Yoruba. All Nigerian women, he said, "You are giving your country a bad image. You're giving your country a bad image by by breaking your matrimonial vow because of migration. You became a nurse and moved abroad, and you kicked your husband out of the house. There was one that was said to have abandoned her husband at the airport, and she disappeared with the children." You see, let me tell you, it's all a reflection of how moral values have broken down in our country. People no longer respect agreements. People just go into marriage as a transaction these days. People go into relationships, businesses as just transactions, mere transactions, looking for what to gain. People are not thinking of legacy. People are just thinking of get-rich-quick schemes. Just get into a business relationship, get into a marriage to gain. And at the end of the day, that is why you see these things happen. And it's a shame. Because one thing people don't realize is that posterity will always judge. The story will always be written someday about these kinds of characters. That is not and I want to say boldly that is not what Nigerian women are. That is not a reflection of what Nigerian women are. These are just a few out of the lot. My mother trained as a nurse in the United Kingdom. What do you mean? She trained as a nurse in Nigeria, later went to the United Kingdom. My father allowed her to go to the United Kingdom, where she spent 3 years training. And she went to some of the best She trained at some of the best hospitals in the UK. You know, I mean, if anybody is watching this video from the UK, if you know Moorfields Eye Clinic, you know, I mean, one of the best eye hospitals in the UK. So, because she specialized in eye nursing. So, and she came back to Nigeria. She didn't lose her senses because, you know, I mean, she went to the UK. Not to talk of people trained in Nigeria as nurses and then moved over there. Then all of a sudden, everything just, you know, disintegrated. I think it's a reflection of the character, of the lack of character, lack of morality of the women engaged in such things. And it is a shame, sincerely speaking.
Very, very true. A very, very big shame. And, you know, just like you did talk about the police officer of Nigerian origin that talked about this matter. I actually watched that viral video. And I do not know why women, you know, pockets of them actually do some of the things that they do. But we sincerely hope that, you know, a solution would be seen anytime in the future. But let's take a look at the Saturday Vanguard for today. The big story here revealed Tinubu's twin strategy for cabinet appointment. And the writer here says, to satisfy politicians as well as experts to drive development. But Emeka, do you agree with this twin strategy by Bola Ahmed Tinubu? He said the first is to satisfy politicians who arguably worked for him and hoping that the same politicians are the right people to drive development. Do you think those two strategies are the reality we see today with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 20 plus months?
Well, with due respect to him, that is his own vision, although I don't share in such a vision. Because many career politicians are just after, you know, basically put in my pocket politics. They're just basically after, you know, what they will get. You know, they are not after development. They are not after upholding the, you know, the nation. They are not after developing the economy. You know, so bringing them into government, I think, you know, just serves as a distraction because they will basically engage in activities that will largely undermine, you know, democracy, undermine the polity. Like we've seen it in different parts of the country. We've seen it in different parts of the country. Appointees, you know, in President Bola Tinubu's government, you know, causing problems in their states. You know, one of them is even calling for a state of emergency in his own state, calling for the truncation of democracy in his own state. So that tells you that, look, many of these people cannot even run a kiosk, an ordinary kiosk by the roadside, not to talk of being, you know, given sensitive positions in government. You can imagine how they are now pushing. So what it means is that, you know, they have lent themselves to destabilizing governors of their states, you know, not even only governors of opposition parties, but governors from parties, their own parties. Their own parties. Look at in Benue State, for instance. The governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, is of the All Progressives Congress. His main traditioner is George Akume, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, also of APC. Look at that kind of situation. Is that what we should be having? Look at the River State. Nyesom Wike, Minister of Federal Capital Territory, is of PDP. The governor of River State, who has been illegally suspended using Tinubu's jackboot style of democracy, Sasimilala Ifubara, is of the PDP. But look at what has happened. So you just know that Nigerian politicians are not just ready for democracy, you know, and it is very they prefer civilian rule, you know, but not they are undemocratic civilians, you know, they are undemocratic civilians in power, and it's sad. It's very, very sad. So they are not ready to drive any development. You still find schools in the FCT, you know, that are said, you know, where pupils are said to be sitting on the floor. There are still areas that are not developed. But you hear every day by revocation of plot, demolition, this and that. But what about the basic human development indices? Can Nyesom Wike and his colleagues point to appreciable human development indices in their states brought about by their ministries? Let's look at the different ministries. Let's look at the different ministries. What appreciable impact have they been in almost 2 years of Tinubu's administration? What impact? Look at Tunji Alausa. Okay, he's a minister. He was the minister of health, now the minister of education. Talking about converting polytechnics and colleges of education to universities. But what about the quality of teaching? What about funding? What about those issues that ASU, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, non-academic staff union, and other allied unions have been talking about? The SANU. What about the issues they've been raising? They've been talking about in terms of funding of universities. Those issues are there unattended to, and you're just piling up universities and all of that.
It's actually unfortunate, Emeka, because this actually, brings me to the next story that we have here, and it states entertainment Nigeria's next driver of economic growth. It's so unbelievable that in Nigeria today, most of our creative ambassadors that we have are the ones that fly the flag better than our politicians. All the creative professionals that we have are better representatives of Nigeria than our politicians. Isn't that very disgraceful and shameful at the same time?
Let me tell you, entertainment cannot be the main driver of economic growth. Whoever said that must have just, been having a daydream. The main driver of our economic growth is agriculture, whether we like it or not. If we cannot achieve food security, there is nothing entertainment can do. You cannot be entertaining hungry stomachs. You cannot be entertaining people who don't get adequate nutrition. It's all just a mirage. Hey, you hear somebody will get up, and soil minerals is Nigeria's new oil. And that person will get up. This one and that, that we should go to space. That is our new oil. People just engage in specious declarations without any research, without engaging in any data-driven research. And so you just see it's just a cacophony of voices. But you have agriculture. Agriculture is there. Agriculture for more than 15 years was the highest contributor to our GDP. Today they tell you it is services. Services driven largely by political corruption. Yes. You're not even talking about manufacturing, which has remained abysmally low. Why? We still engage in a lot of importation at high rates. Look at the exchange rate; it's very high. There is even no power supply. So how do you resolve these issues if your agricultural sector is not well set up? How do you resolve these issues? And that is where because if you are serious about agriculture, agro processing, food security, you will fix the roads better. You will develop rural communities, farming communities. You will develop them. You will fix power. So imagine if we're exporting, if we're among the top exporters of beef in the world, or of maize. We don't even produce enough of any of these things in Nigeria. So how do you now tell me that entertainment is made? Driving what? Driving what? Data now is even very expensive. And you are saying is driving what? You cannot. What you're just doing is just speaking into the air. You're not addressing issues. So whoever said that, I'm sorry to say, is not correct.
Very, very true. You're actually not far from the truth, because when we talk about entertainment, it is an afterthought. When it's only when someone is full to the brim that he can laugh or, of course, dance or whatever.
Yes, when you have adequate nutrition.
Adequate nutrition.
Yes.
But
yes.
If not, I do not know.
That's why. That's why. You see, poor nutrition is one major reason for antisocial behavior, you see. For all of these criminal acts. Yes, because you just see people behaving in, abnormal ways. Why? inadequate nutrition. And that is a major issue which government is not addressing, unfortunately.
Very, very true. Very true. But let's lastly, just before we let you, or we let go for this segment, We Can Trust newspaper. 64 years after, clean water still a mirage for Nigerians. It's just very close to what you had said about Abuja, and yes, Wike, who is busy revocating lands and trying to grab lands and so on and so forth, while clean water is not available in Abuja. Central sewage system is not available in Abuja. Gas central system is not available in Abuja. And we still have a FCT minister who is more focused on things that people don't even care about. Speak to me, Emeka.
Yeah, that's correct. You see governor jumping up and down, telling you I've not borrowed money, I've brought foreign investors, I've brought this, I've brought that. But ask them, do you have a central water supply system? Do you have potable water in your state? The answer is no. Do you have reliable sewage systems in your state? The answer is no. You go to many states, you see pit toilets, you see fine pit toilets, and this is an anathema. It is akin to open defecation, because you still get pollution from these pit toilets. So what we have to do is to get serious. Let's get down to the brass tacks. Let's deal with, basic issues. We're talking of manufacturing helicopters or aircraft. We're talking of going to the moon. Look, you see, people are just so unfortunately distracted once they get into office, instead of dealing with the basic issues. The United Nations has even helped us with the WASH initiative. Today is the World Water Day. We have no program, nothing, to really celebrate. People are still defecating, on the expressways. Then you don't have clean water. And this year's theme is, preserving the glaciers. Glaciers provide 75% of the world's supply of fresh water, and they house ecosystems and other things like that. Now, do you know, I think two countries, in two countries that have glaciers, they have disappeared. Other glaciers around the world are also disappearing. So that raises the fear that, look at it. Many millions of years ago, much of the earth was covered in ice. But today, only 10% of the earth is covered in ice. Glaciers are melting because of global warming, because of indiscriminate, manufacturing. Greenhouse gases are being released indiscriminately, into the system, into the atmosphere. And these things are affecting the glaciers. And what it means is that supply of fresh water becoming a threat, a major threat. So we must take action to ensure that our sanitation and environmental renewal goals are met. We should stop deceiving ourselves that all is well. No. All is not well.
Very, very true. And SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation. Unfortunately,
yes,
our government and those in authority do not consider some of these things. They don't even understand what it means. And once they have that in their homes and wherever it is that they stay in their residence, it is none of their business if the larger part of the country do not have. And that's the sort of leaders that we have. Thank you so very much, Emeka, for being here. We truly do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Just to let you know, Emeka will be here to take us on our main conversation when we return. Akpabio denies $15,000 bribes for senators and other parliamentarians to endorse the state of emergency in Rivers State. That in the beat is still Enterprise Weekend. Don't go anywhere.